What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you had a good weekend, got a chance to play some games or maybe get some things done around the house. And this week looks like it might be a pretty big week overall, since we are expecting some sort of Nintendo Direct announcement, or at least a time. Maybe it's already happened by the time you've seen this, in which case you'll probably hear about it in the next Newswave. But there was a bunch of stuff that happened over the weekend. This included, well, we may have actually seen our first bits of information about the Wii U finally being outsold by the Switch, something we've seen, well, at least the writing on the wall, for quite a while now. And while it might not be the source that I usually use, it is technically the first reported instance of this happening. We're going to go to that soon. And then it looks like Digital Foundry may have gotten into some hot water with a CEO of a developing company for a game that they may have messed up on a little bit. But it's a very interesting conversation that goes a little past really just the surface of what happened there. So let's get started. Let's start with the sales numbers today for the Wii U and the Switch. Now, I just said the Switch technically outsold the Wii U, and that's kind of correct. Listen, I don't usually use Famitsu because I kind of look at their numbers sometimes and they look a little weird different weeks, and it's supposed to report online sales as well. However, Media Create, which does mostly physical, happens to report at sometimes higher sales numbers and then other times lower, and it feels kind of weird with Famitsu, although they are reporting what they see. So we're going to take a look at them today because there was no Media Create that week, and that was the week that I was pretty confident the Switch was going to pass the Wii U, and according to Famitsu, it has. Let's take a look at their top 10 in-game sales, starting with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at the top, 89,000, Splatoon 2 right below that, 80,000. Both of those games are really kicking it right now, especially Splatoon 2 at 1.7 million. That's going to be a 2 million seller in probably the next month or two. Super Mario Odyssey also up there. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, the double pack. Again, they did just count them together. There's a trainer's pack as well. Mario Party Top 10 debuted that week at 46,188. Yokai Watch, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, that is the Switch version. 1-2 Switch at number 8. Earth Defense Force 5, actually still in the top 10. That's pretty good for Earth Defense Force. Great to see there. And then ARMS actually jumped back into the top 10, up from the 11th spot. All right, let's actually get over to the systems. Really the big news from this report. Starting at the top, Nintendo Switch, 115,255 units, and that does push the lifetime to date sales, 3,407,158, and that is roughly 100,000 or so above what they report as the Wii U's lifetime sales at 3.3 million, and that is a very big achievement for the Switch. Let's go down from there, just take a look at the others. PS4, 58,182. The 3DS, that includes all of the different 3DSs, as well as that PS4 one includes all the different PS4s, 35,357. The Vita at 7,000. So again, the Vita's doing pretty well still, surprisingly. In Japan, it's pretty popular still. The Xbox One, again, that also includes the X, 287, and the Wii U is still technically selling at 69. PS3 below that, 22. That Xbox One split was nearly 50-50 at 145 for the X, 142 for the S. A lot of people are very curious as to how the X is going to continue to sell in Japan, and believe it or not, it actually outsold the cheaper model with the S this past week. So wow, we've been talking about the Switch catching up to the Wii U in less than a year, and it absolutely did it, according to Famitsu. Listen, even if Media Create comes to the table with lesser numbers and it's not quite there, it's still pretty impressive that the Switch completely took out the Wii U in its first year, 10 months in this case. Now, again, Media Create may show up with numbers that don't match this, and it's off by like this much margin error. Either way, though, the Switch taking it out in its first year, less than its first year, is pretty impressive. I do think at this point, the Switch is probably going to finish worldwide in the 14 to 15 million range. Probably 15 million, to be honest. That goes all the way to their first fiscal year, goes all the way to the end of March. So yeah, you're probably going to see that. But of course, in this case, the March 3rd, it would mark an entire year for the Switch. I still think 15 or so million is where they'll be when that's all done. And yes, it looks like the Switch is a success so far for Nintendo, but they're going to want to keep it going with the momentum going into 2018. And I think with these sales you're seeing here, you're going to start seeing more and more third parties jump in, because it's very clear Nintendo proved themselves in their first year, as they had to with their first party games. They didn't really have a ton of third party help with big blockbuster games. Sure, Skyrim and Doom were there. Surprisingly, Bethesda was the company that really showed up and helped out, but I think you're going to see some surprise announcements, I'll say that, going into 2018 from different third parties. One that we kind of expect and some that we don't expect. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the second year is going to be more interesting than the first year for the Switch, because now you're going to start seeing announcements that you would probably never thought, or at least would have thought, I'll say that. The Wii and the Wii U were two systems. The Wii U was just awkward and weird when it came to its marketing, and it didn't catch on. The Wii was underpowered compared to the 360 and PS3 that kept some away from it. Sure, the Switch is not as powerful, but it's still scalable to the point where you can do things like Doom on that console, so Wolfenstein even. You're going to start seeing some pretty cool games, I think, show up. Next up, let's move over to Digital Foundry. You may have heard about what happened between Digital Foundry and the Redout team, and it's a little odd, I will say that, because it seems like they took this very seriously. Redout's parent company, developing company, took this very seriously, despite Digital Foundry mostly being a website publication, I guess, and a YouTube channel mostly. Sure, they do a lot of technical analysis, and they're generally pretty good at it. In this case, though, they seem to miss the mark, and I'm saying that because they did actually admit it on their Twitter. They pulled the video down, and they apologized for it. But what's really interesting here is the means that the Redout developers were willing to go to get this taken care of. So what am I talking about exactly? Well, they took a look at Redout. It was an Xbox One X patch. They go over it, but they find that it's mostly 1080p and not 4K as was originally, well, promised. It's an Xbox One X patch. You're assuming it's going to be some sort of scaling back and forth dynamically. 4K is still kind of a reach for a lot of these systems, especially at their price point. $500, while it sounds like a lot, in the grand scheme of things, when you're trying to tackle 4K, it's not. Generally, you need a good chunk of money to get there. So in this case, they go through it. They find that it's mostly 1080p. They show all these different parts of how they came to that conclusion, where they use different images. And it comes out that VG Tech actually proved it wrong, that it is a scaling dynamic resolution that does go up to 4K, and then it drops down and it's all over the place for the most part, but it does go to 4K. Okay, so they got it wrong. Was the big deal, right? Well, apparently Redout's 34 Big Things CEO, that's their parent company CEO, well, they had an interesting thing to say on their blog post, saying, "This is a pure straight lie. The Xbox One X got an enhancement update a couple of weeks ago, which brings 4K rendering with dynamic resolution scaling to everyone, owners or not of 4K TV. More specifically, we managed to scale the resolution between 90% and 50% of native 4K, which means the resolution goes from the upper limit of 3456 by 1944 to the lower one of 1920 by 1080, confirmed also by VG Tech. More technical details on this will follow in the next days when everybody will be back from holiday vacations, but meanwhile, let us spell it out, it's not 1080p. We are currently looking into action to defend our public image." So the real question is, was this the wrong way for the CEO to go about it? Really put this out there to the public? Maybe. It really is hard to say. It's almost like Digital Foundry just messed up. It was a mistake. They have, like I said, apologized. They've pulled the video down. It seemed like they were just getting, really, the 34 Big Things and Redout were just getting a lot of comments towards them about being lazy and not pushing the Xbox One X as far as they could go. And because of how large Digital Foundry and, of course, Eurogamer, Digital Foundry specifically has grown over the years, how big they've gotten, when you make mistakes like this, you're going to get backlash if it's to the point where it could damage someone's image or their game sales, right? I don't know how easy it would be to prove that. I do think they may have gone overboard here because they did take some shots at Digital Foundry. They essentially said that they were clickbaiting and there was no way they could have made a mistake. I think they made a mistake here. They've admitted that. They're going to reevaluate. Monday, today, they will be reevaluating it and putting out a new video, and they've already apologized and everything. So you know what? It happens. It's a mistake. I don't think they should have attacked them in this way, but I do understand they also have an image to defend. But let me know what you guys think about this. Also, is it interesting to you guys, too, that a YouTube channel like Digital Foundry has so much power when it comes to just looking at technical specifications, like what resolution is this, is there anisotropical filtering, what little shortcuts they're using to get there, to the point where the developing company comes out and has to defend themselves against them. It's interesting how powerful some YouTubers are getting and can affect the way games sell or are viewed by the public. Let me know what you guys think about that as well. Next up, let's talk about SpiderMan. It's a game that I'm really excited for on the PS4, and I really want it to come out this year. I want it to be a 2018 game, and I'd like it sooner than later. I'm talking like summer, maybe? I want it soon, right? I think a lot of us do because we've seen it E3 twice, I think now. So we're pretty familiar with it, and we want to play it, not only because of Spider-Man, but because it's an Insomniac game that's going to be, I think, a very cool open world style game, one that I've been waiting for since something like Spider-Man 2, which was an awesome game. I played that a lot on the PS2, then I played it on the Xbox some as well. So I'm looking for any bit of news I can find about this, even though there's not a ton out there. But Brian Horton put out some information that made me a little more hopeful for this game to show up sooner rather than later. They held an entire 2-day play test for Brian and everyone else in the team, and apparently they've beaten it multiple times, and this is what they had to say on Twitter. Finishing my third playthrough of SpiderMan PS4, each playthrough has taken multiple days, long night ahead of me, going back in. So why did this get me excited? Well, one, it seems to be you can play through it now, like they're to the point where they're probably play testing it completely. They have the game, they have it mostly done, maybe there's some more polishing to do. It sounds like they can start from the beginning and play all the way through, and it's apparently taking him multiple days to complete one sitting, which is great. And there's also the possibility of things like side quests and 100%ing the game. He could just be playing all the way through the main story just to get that done. And they're kind of just they're all playtesting it to wander around the world, I'm sure, as well. Maybe he's just playing through the main story because he's the game designer and he's checking things out. But at this point, because there's so many of them packed in, he even said, people are telling me my job is to play games now. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They have to play the game to make sure it works. You would want them, the designers, to play the game so that you don't get a broken mess when it comes out. I actually wish more games would take more time with this phase. I'm sure a lot of them pushed out the door when it gets to this point because they feel like it's ready. I'm happy it's playable, right? I'm happy they can play all the way through it, and I'm happy that it's taking multiple days. So I was concerned, okay, he's already beaten it 3 times. How long does it take to beat it? Multiple days, that could be like a 15, 20-hour story maybe, and then you have side quests. Maybe it turns out to be a 40 to 50-hour game. I'm okay with that because there will be times where we're just swinging around, you know, in New York City as Spider-Man. Next up, I want to talk about a controller very quickly for the Xbox One that I was very interested in. I've talked about how I want to play more of Sea of Thieves when it comes out because I think it has some potential, but there were some worrying parts of it for me, especially progression system. Appears to be no real leveling. You don't really seem to do much on your boat in terms of building it up. There's not a lot of progression around your character or anything like that. I would like to be able to build up your ship. You know, you buy a big ship, or you start with a small one, you build it up, you go on treasure hunts, you get treasure, you buy more parts. There's a lot of cool things they could do. It just doesn't feel like they're doing a lot with it. It feels very shallow, right? I don't know. But the one cool thing that I think most people are agreeing on right now is the controller that's coming out, special edition controller for the Xbox One. Looks awesome. Now, this is a Sea of Thieves controller here. It's for the Xbox One. It's gonna be $74.99 in the United States, and it's gonna be releasing on February 6th. So it's gonna be like a month and a half before the actual game comes out. You can buy the controller, and I love the look of it, like the purple accents. It has one gold trigger on the back. I was trying to figure out if that was for the idea of like finding gold treasure, or if it was for like the one gold tooth that most pirates generally have. But I like the idea of this. I generally don't look at every single special edition controller because the Xbox in particular seems to get a lot of them more so than anyone else. Although now the Switch is getting a lot of different colored Joy-Cons, so they might be starting to rival them there. I don't mind special edition controllers. This one just kind of stood out to me, and I thought it was really neat looking. In our last bit of news, let's talk a little bit about Disgaea 5, because it might actually paint a picture for what's to come for the Switch, and that is, well, it did well. It did very well. Disgaea 5, according to Nippon Ichi, where they released some figures, sold over 200,000 units on the Switch for Disgaea 5, and they said, well, we might want to start, supporting this little system over here because, well, it's supporting us back. And apparently that is really well. 200,000 units for Disgaea 5 in the US and Japan and other places of the world. Apparently it sold really well in the US. It just sold okay in Japan. Now listen, I know a lot of people probably bought it on the PS4 already, but this was like the complete edition, had all the stuff to it. And it's a good game. If you haven't played it, I recommend picking it up. And of course it came out back when the Switch was really first around in its first month or so. So it was going to continue selling throughout the Switch's lifetime, and it's done well so far. 200,000 units is at least enough for Nice America, for example, to take a look at this system and start releasing different IPs, new IPs, or sequels. And Nice America has an event coming up that we're going to want to take a look at. February 9th, they're going to have their press event. It's coming back. I think they missed a year, but it's coming back. And they're going to show off, apparently, new games, new IPs, announcements, and the press will be able to play new games as well. And I completely expect Switch logo to be on a lot of these games that you see. And if you're a big fan of the strategy RPGs or just more of the more Japanese influenced games, you're going to want to take a look at this. Now we'll get more information as we get closer to it for times, and I'll see if I can stream it as well, depending on when it is. I think they usually have that and I want to say it's usually like San Francisco. I know it's on the West Coast most times, but I think we can stream it and see what they have for us, and hopefully they have some cool strategy RPGs, maybe even some straight JRPGs, and it'll be a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike button. Leave a bunch of comments below about any of the stuff we talked about today. Maybe you're excited for Spider-Man as well, and you're happy to hear that, oh, it's completely playable, or you're a little worried that he's able to beat it, multiple times. and you're not liking what it sounds like, that it could be a smaller type game. I don't know, you can kind of go either way with it, but let me know what you think about SpiderMan, because I'm very excited for it. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the Switch outselling the Wii U according to Famitsu in Japan. I think that's a big deal, and I think they're going to give us numbers that exceed the Wii U numbers when Nintendo does release their quarterly reports at the end of January. That should be like the last day of January. We'll get actual reports from Nintendo themselves as to where the Switch is, well, at the beginning of January, so the end of December of that quarter, and that's going to be a lot of fun to see. And then let me know what you think about the Digital Foundry Redout situation. Do you think the Redout CEO, do you think they overreacted a little bit, or do you think it was their job to protect their image against what they would probably see as just false information being put out there, especially when people start slinging mud in your direction from their comments and then let you know on Twitter that they're lazy, when I guess they're probably not. I mean, they're developers, there's crunch time, all this stuff goes into it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.